All right, everybody, welcome back to the Balance Sheet podcast, where we discuss all things women's wrestling, or as my co host likes to use the term, exceptionalism. This is where we discuss women's wrestling exceptionalism. And we're going to talk about a lot of different topics this week. The next 2 weeks are going to be huge for not only the wrestling industry, but the women's part of the industry, because you have two major pay-per-views, PLEs, whatever you want to talk about it happening. We have one today in All In London. Congratulations to AEW. They sold over 50,000 tickets. For anybody who is online and says, oh, they went from 80,000 tickets to 50,000, that's a decline. I don't think people understand how hard it is for the number two, not as hot compared to the very hottest it's ever been, WWE, to sell 50,000 tickets. That's a lot of tickets. That is hard work. So they deserve a lot of kudos for that. The following week, I believe we have another European pay-per-view, which is Bash at Berlin. And there is some women's representation on that. Unfortunately, there is no actual singles women's title matches on that card. It's only for the women's tag belts, and we'll get into that as well. So yeah,
Did they add
I'm
Nia
here,
Michin?
as you can see. No, so Nia Michin is a street fight on the SmackDown before the pay-per-view. They added Bianca Jade going back for their titles against Isla and Alba, but that's the only women's match on Bash at Berlin, but none of the singles titles are represented. And that is something that you and we will be discussing, because let's be honest here. You could make an argument that, Liv especially is one of the hottest wrestlers in the world in terms of just her character. Nia has really, come into her own. Neither title are on the pay-per-view. The women's tag belts are. And I can make a case in this specific instance that's the right move, because the tag belts need their own spotlight. And giving them the only women's match on Bash at Berlin might be a good thing, because they're going to get time and they're going to get a chance to showcase those titles. So those are the next two pay-per-views. So what's on your mind this week, sir?
Well, I guess we start with All In, right? It's in a couple of hours. We're not going to talk about it too long, because by the time everyone sees this video, it'll be over. So maybe give a couple predictions and whatnot. But I thought the contract signing with Britt and Mercedes re-accelerated the feud a little bit. A lot of damage control had to be done. It got to a tough spot, just whatever you want to blame the suspension or whatnot, but it just kind of plateaued for a little while. As Mercedes tends to do, the contract signing segment was fantastic. We do this every single time. She cuts a promo in the ring and people start to question the promo ability, and then immediately you get her in the ring with the person she's adversary. And for selling a match, which is what a promo is for, selling a match, making you want to watch the match, she's one of the best promos in the game. She actually really is. It doesn't take rocket science. It's about you wanting to see someone beat someone up or get beat up, right? So though the promo dynamic again was pretty, it's just that struggle with Britt being a face. I felt like Mercedes has to hold back on some of her best promo lines. Like Britt hit her with the "You're one of four, I'm one of one. I was here first, blah blah blah." And Mercedes, you want her to be like, "Oh, cool. So you were the first champion, right? Second champion, right? No, you're the longest reigning champion. That either. First, what have you been doing? You know what I mean? Like, but she doesn't cut down baby faces like that, as she shouldn't. I don't. The heel needs to get the baby face over, not cut him down. So, but overall, it was a good promo. Britt had some really good stuff in there. Besides that, that line I didn't particularly like. Though it was a zinger that gets the internet's attention. So if that's if it added some value there, that's good. But I thought Mercedes came across like a star, like a big time champion, and Britt needed to be the one who got over in the segment as far as physicality is concerned. So here we go, ready for the match. I'll give you my prediction after you give me your thoughts.
So I agree with you that the contract signing segment was very good in terms of getting the feud back on the rails. I think they derailed it for the last couple of weeks. They had some missed segments. Myself, we were not excited about the way the feud has been handled since the suspension. I think it peaked at the Comic Con, and then from that point on, it really didn't catch fire. I will say this about Britt's promo. I don't know if her promos are her in this feud just giving you what she wants to give, or are they writing them helping her? But okay, so I'm going to nitpick here a little bit. Two things. Number one, the whole "I'm one of one, you're one of four." That's really not a great line, because the four that she's talking about are like maybe the greatest group of four women's wrestlers of all time, in not a TV faction, but in a, hey, behind the scenes, we changed the industry
Mount Rushmore
version, right? They're like the click, but they're actually positive. Like everything that they did was not just for the four of them. They did it for a whole genre, right? Like they were on, if you go back, anybody, we'll post the article in the YouTube link and then on the Spotify link. But there's a fantastic article that GQ did on the four horsewomen and how all four of them helped change the women's wrestling landscape. And it profiled all four of them, and they were like, they had cartoon drawings and everything. Okay, these four women, you could make a case, are the Mount Rushmore of North American women's wrestling. You could legitimately say they are the four most important women in the history of North American women's wrestling. Being one of those four is like, I tweeted this, being on the 2017 Warriors. Okay, like even Draymond, if you say this a woman is Draymond, she's still on the team. Britt, yes, you're one of one, but you're one of one on the Clippers. So I didn't find that as a zinger. I didn't think they should have even gone that direction. Number two, she said, you're now just about chasing the money instead of protecting your legacy. She took the money in AEW. The legacy, she's saying, is staying in WWE. I don't even know how they allowed her to say that promo, because to me, what you're highlighting is she's in there for a money grab. To me, Britt should have said, the reason you're here is because you know we're the best. And
right.
If you want to cement your legacy as the best, you came to where the women's division is the best, and that's AEW. That's not what she said. She basically said, you're here for the cash grab. If you wanted to keep your legacy or further it, you should have stayed over there. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm the one who's reading too much into this, but I thought that was just a bad way of executing what she's trying to say, which in her whole promo is, I'm your biggest fan, which is another part of, well, I'm your biggest fan, but I want to beat that Mercedes, not this person. Again, I've never been a big, being positive, trying not to be negative here. I've never thought Britt was as great a promo as everybody makes her out to be. I think what she does is she can talk well and articulate herself, but I don't know if she actually makes me want to buy a ticket. And when I watched it, I thought Mercedes, like, what's wrong with her trying to make the most money? Because, hey, Britt, guess who's going to benefit from it? You. The other women, their salaries are going to elevate because this person broke the ceiling on salaries. Again, I just didn't find her part of that very compelling. But with Mercedes, I thought she was excellent in the segment. And I thought she came across as heelish as she could in this specific feud,
Yeah.
which is you're a fan. You're my biggest fan. And you're not going to beat me because I'm the blueprint. But you're a fan, and I love that Britt got the edge, took them both out, held the title up. People were chanting DMD. That was good for television. But I hope that, and you're going to give your prediction, when this match happens, they go their separate ways, because I believe Britt needs to be away from Mercedes for a while. I think Mercedes needs to start planting the seeds for obviously Camille turning on her, which this is a year story they have. To me, the next year's All in Dallas, it's either, we had the post Athena versus her, or it's Camille versus her. Those are
Yeah.
the only two matches I think you can have for next All In. That's it.
Yeah, no, either one of those would be huge. I can see them going either way. What I think is exciting about it is, again, we've got a whole year of fantasy booking that doesn't require her getting the AEW title either, which I think proves how great of a job she's already done with the TBS championship. You've got the biggest Mercedes Moné fans in the world, not just us, sitting here saying, we could go Camille, run, belt collector, but you never hear the AEW title added to the belt collector deal, because I think we all want multiple women's title segments on AEW. Maybe her adding the IWGP back or something like that. But the TBS championship has become so important. If she just holds it for a year, and that's what Camille takes off of her, that would be great. If that was her match versus or maybe Athena comes in and wins the AEW championship, and then that's a belt for belt match. And again, I would say, Mercedes probably loses the match with Athena, the story I have in my mind. But all in today, I just don't have anything else I want to see her do with Britt right now. To your point, them even using the money line means that they don't have a lot that they feel confident mining, because that's the lowest common denominator. And again, you're basically saying we had to overpay you for you to be here. It doesn't make your show look great. I think you nailed what would have been the better line. This is where the best wrestle, and I'm the best. And now you're going to, you may be undefeated, but that's not going to go on for very long. And then when Britt loses, if you're going to keep her face, she's got to introduce, the question she has about herself. And has it passed her by, right? If you want to try to write something compelling for her. So for my prediction, I honestly don't. From a business sense, I have a very strong prediction on this, but from a AEW fandom sense, I don't. I haven't watched AEW that long. I started watching, closely in January when we thought, Mercedes was going to end up there. I've probably been pretty close in on the women's division for a little over a year. Tony and a lot of what she was doing, I've paid attention to. So, but buying the pay-per-views and kind of analyzing, what direction Tony chooses, I'm not as up to date on that. So, from a business sense, Mercedes wins. I actually want her to win clean. I'd love to see Camille get involved and then get kicked out of ringside, and you think that they're pulling the old Vince McMahon deal where that's how the face wins. But I'm going to stop saying that guy's name on this podcast. That'll be the last time. We got to come up with like a Voldemort name for him or something like that. But I'd like to see her get kicked from ringside, and then Mercedes win anyway. And I don't necessarily need the Renegade Twins or another part of her faction to get involved for her to win. I think a clean win would be great. If she also introduces her faction getting larger, I think that would be great too. From a fandom perspective, I have this feeling that Tony thinks that he wants to make the feud go on longer. Maybe Britt wins. I don't know though. So I'm not as confident, but I'm gonna go Mercedes wins. And I'm gonna say due to interference. Though I wouldn't book
Okay,
it that way.
so I'm going to say Mercedes. I'm going to say Mercedes wins. I think she's going to win exactly the way you said, except it will be with the help of somebody. Camille will get kicked away from ringside. Then everybody will think Britt's going to win. And it's one of two scenarios. Either it is the Renegade Twins, who are the newest members of the Money Corporation, helping her, where one twin comes out, distracts the ref. Everybody's like, oh, look. And then the other twin is the one who actually kicks Britt or does something to Britt, and Mercedes wins, that keeps her title. Or number two, which is another direction you could go in, which is Shida helps Mercedes win, but doesn't help Mercedes win because she's joining the Money Corporation. She wants her rubber match with Britt, and they will have a singles match on the next pay-per-view as like the blood feud ends. Or Shida joins the Money Corporation because she needs a heel turn. But to me, those are the ways you book this. Mercedes has to win. That is my prediction. I think as much as I worry about Tony and his affinity for Britt, I think Mercedes is the rocket he has to hitch himself to. So it's going to be Mercedes, but
what if Hater shows up?
That's the way I think the match ends.
What if Hater shows up?
So I've heard, yes, I've heard. I mean, everybody has talked about that. This is the place where she turns on Britt, but okay, let's say she does that. Isn't she going to get cheered anyway? Doesn't that defeat the purpose? Like if she comes and turns on Britt and gets cheered anyway, you haven't effectively done anything other than hurt Britt. I think Hater is a possibility, but I think that one of what we discussed, Renegade Twins or Shida, seem like the other option. I would love a scenario where Camille is barred from the ringside at the beginning of the match and Mercedes just beats her. And the story is Britt isn't good enough yet. And that's a simple story because Britt just came back from the injury. Mercedes at the peak, at the top of her game, and
Division's
she's
accelerated.
just not good enough. And that's it, right? But they're not going to do that. It's going to be some kind of screwy finish. Okay. To me, the way I look at this match is when we used to be, when we're all big Sasha Banks fans, every single match she went into, we would worry if she's going to lose the title. And let's be honest, she did not have many singles title defenses on pay-per-views that she actually retained. She's only had two. The two Carmella matches, right? As champion, as singles champion, she has never, other than the two Carmella matches, defended her title on a WWE pay-per-view. That's a fact. People are going to like, what?
Crazy.
She was there for 10 years. Nope, it's true. On the main roster, she has had these singles matches as champ where the title was on the line. Charlotte SummerSlam, she lost. Charlotte Hell in a Cell, she lost. Charlotte Roadblock, she lost. Carmella, what is it? So what's the pay-per-view called? The really good match.
Oh wait, no. She Asuka SummerSlam, she lost. That was the Raw Championship.
She lost, yes. Okay, so that's 4. She's lost all 4. And then she defended her title against Carmella, won. Defended against Carmella again at the Royal Rumble, won. Then the next time was against Bianca at WrestleMania, and she lost. So she has defended her TLC. She has defended her singles titles on 7 different WWE pay-per-views, and she is 2-5.
And a non-title win over.
She's beaten twice.
Title win over Asuka at Survivor Series, which truthfully is as a champion, that's probably her best win in her career. I love that match. Someone posted it the other day.
It was a really good match.
The most beautiful, tight 11-minute technical sprint you'll ever see. And it was like match number 8 in the series, and they literally counter wrestled everything the whole time. And that is the exact example of when winning with a roll up is the perfect thing, because nothing else, none of your known stuff
Great,
works.
great match, great technical wrestling. But it was, I think Asuka was a champ, and Sasha was the champ, right? Like Asuka was the Raw champ,
Yeah,
she was
champ
the
versus
SmackDown
champ.
champ, and it was the Survivor Series format of champ versus champ. But again, for one of the most accomplished women's wrestlers of all time in the ring, one of absolutely the best women's wrestlers of all time, a generational talent, for her to be 2-5 in pay-per-views in WWE and singles title defenses is pretty awful. And I know wrestling and stats are it's like, well, why are you keeping stats? It's predetermined, but it's like in AEW, right? She's already has a better pay-per-view record than she had in her career at WWE. And quite honestly, she should have, at the end of whenever her AEW contract ends, she should have the best women's winning percentage of all time in AEW. Like, she should literally have like 1 loss or 2 losses. That's how she should be booked. But
It's what you pay her for.
it's crazy how little success she had on pay-per-view. So that's my prediction. So we're on the AEW prediction business. What about the title match? What about Timeless Toni Storm versus Mariah May? I'm going to give you my prediction, and then I'll hear yours. So I think it's Mariah May. I think she's winning the title. It's her hometown. I think she's going to be a monster babyface no matter what they do to her. No matter how evil and nasty she is, she's going to get cheered like crazy. People are going to cheer for Toni because she's so over as a character. But I think the Mariah May era begins. I don't know if she holds the title long, but she's going to win the title today. I think this is her moment. Wink, wink. I think when Tony signed her, this was one of the things he said to her to get her to sign. Hey, we have this pay-per-view coming up in your hometown. What do you think of this? Yeah, my prediction is Mariah May's winning the title.
I absolutely think Mariah's winning the title. That's another reason why I think Mercedes, I don't think you're going to change both belts. And Mariah needs to win, right? I mean, that's this again, when we say needs, it's not about fandom. I will very much tell you that Mercedes or any of my favorites should lose if the story is better that they lose, right? So Mariah needs to win. I'm rooting for her to win, but I'm not saying she needs to win because I'm rooting for her. It's the best story. It's the progression of the belt. And Toni Storm fans should want Toni to lose because there's no better way. You do not want to drop the title in a match in time that people are not going to remember. You want to drop the title at your best opponent with the best story you had while you had the belt in the best environment and in an iconic moment. That's the way you cap off a great reign, a great title reign. We talked about this several pods back. The thing that holds Charlotte Flair back is she's won and lost the title so much that it becomes a gray area and you start to not remember the important ones, or winning or losing them. You want the moment to really stick out. So this is the perfect place for Toni to drop the belt. And while you were talking, what if Mariah wins? Kind of like what they did to Mercedes at Forbidden Door. What if Mariah wins and Hayter comes out to challenge her? Is that a roof exploding pop in England?
I think so. Yeah, that would be phenomenal. That would be a really good piece of business. Now, there's a fantasy booking component that intertwines both of these matches. Somebody said, "What if Mercedes wins and Becky Lynch comes out, or if Mariah wins and then Becky Lynch also comes out because she's from the United Kingdom and she is technically a free agent and she's already in the WWE alumni section. So
I think that's a work.
she's not an active superstar. I just think that look, if Tony Khan can actually sign Becky Lynch, like legitimately sign her, he should.
He should.
It's a big deal. I know people are like, oh, they're like, oh, no, no, no. Becky Lynch is one of the few names that if she shows up on AEW TV, it's like, oh, her and Mercedes are now in the company together. That's your all in main event next year. Then I like Athena and she's phenomenal, but that's your main event next year. Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, Mercedes, Rebecca Quinn. But I don't know if I don't think it's realistic. Her husband is there long term. She gets everything she wants from WWE. She gets her own bus. She flies private. She
Yeah.
can work a lighter schedule if that's what she wants. They'll give it to her. I just see it as she'll use AEW intelligently to drive up her price in WWE,
She
and she'll
should.
get the money, and she'll be fine, and she should. So for me, I love the fantasy booking element of because I'm such a huge Becky Lynch fan that I would love to see her in an environment that isn't the WWE umbrella, the way I'm enjoying seeing Mercedes in the not WWE environment. However, we have to be realistic, and they have enough women on the roster depth wise to elevate multiple women along Mercedes journey, where it's Camille, Athena, wherever they decide to go, that she can make multiple stars out of this. I think she's already done it with Willow. She made Stephanie she helped elevate Stephanie to the point where the other guy said, "Yeah, come on over, we'll give you the world." And I think she can do that with multiple women. So yeah, but I think Hayter coming out to challenge Ryan May would be awesome. You know why? Because everybody would assume Hayter would come out for Britt, but it's like they're bringing Hayter back and putting her right at the top, saying she's going
Yep.
after the big belt, and I think that would be good. Yeah, so I think that's it. So I guess that's our kind of AEW preview as it relates to the women. I guess we should pivot over to WWE this week. So I just caught up on all the WWE stuff last night. I'm here in Chicago. I was at a wedding. So, Billy, why don't you take me through what you saw on WWE TV this week for the women?
So it's funny. I think we ranted about this a week or two ago. We've talked about it a lot, but the tag team division, take a direction, put some effort into it, and you could start to see some of the seeds planted. But the matches weren't presented in a way that we felt like were big enough. So have to give just due that they have started to correct that this week. Both Raw and SmackDown had phenomenal women's matches, tag team matches, where time was given, stories were built upon. The crowd was into both matches. I watched the. I'll let you speak on the Raw match. I did see it, but had other stuff going on while it was on. I watched the SmackDown trios match intently, and I'm going to count that as the women's tag team division because you had your tag champs involved, and they were involved in a way where tag team wrestling was highlighted, right? So, um, the big three doing what they did this week, uh, Bianca, Jade, and Naomi. That's a show you can take on the road across the United States, and they'll be over with every crowd, and they will get some of the best pops, some of the best reactions to the matches. And if you're not going to have them in the title picture, singles, any of them, this is exactly the best way to use them. And it just makes your card so much deeper, right? Because they were so over, as they have been. But the matching gear, and they had Naomi involved this time. You had the USA women's gymnastics, American exceptionalism, right? We talked about it, how much love America has for U.S. women's gymnastics. So I thought I'm going to give Bianca credit for that because she probably had to make the gear herself. but they came out to that theme. And I will tell you, there is not a bigger hot tag in WWE right now than Bianca or Jade. And I'm sure they can get Naomi involved in that the more that they all wrestle together, not just at WrestleMania. Um, Jade's hot tag was phenomenal. The crowd, exactly how you build a hot tag. Props to Bianca. Um, she worked under for 10 minutes better than the best I've ever seen her do. And that's not her fault. They usually just never let her work under. And they did a really great job showcasing the teamwork of Alba, Blair, and Isla. Really, really great corner work. Really, really great tag work, isolating Bianca. That's how you draw up getting a tag match over. And Bianca was phenomenal working under. Really, really, really great job. And then Jade came in and cleaned up. And I just thought the match was really, really great. And, when you talk about putting something on TV and on a show that elevates your brand, that match absolutely elevated the WWE brand, because not everything can be a singles titles match and for all the marbles, right? And if you're going to have a trios match, it needs to be fun. It needs to be well wrestled, and it needs to tell a story in ring that could get the crowd involved and not just have six people doing moves on each other, right? So, I was very happy with the way that match was booked.
So I agree with everything you said about the 6-person. I thought it was one of the best executed 6-person tag matches they've done in a long time. What I loved about it is, number one, neither the tag champs or the challengers took the pin. It's Naomi, Blair, which is exactly the result of the match, because
100%.
Blair has cost them the titles, right? So Naomi is their answer to Blair. Naomi pins Blair to kind of almost assist the challengers in not taking a fall or not losing, kind of their train of thought or their momentum. So I think that was excellent. I agree. The Jade hot tag, when she gets going, awesome. She just kills you, boot to the face, slam, spine buster. She's just
High impact.
just on fire. She comes in, she just, whoo. Yeah, it's great. Those three, you could make a case. They could main event house shows. House shows that don't have Roman Reigns on it, Cody Rhodes on it. I don't know if Gunther even main events house shows, but my point is, there's such a star act. Like, they just have such a star magnetism to them, the three of them, when they're together, that it doesn't really matter who their opponents are. They're the show. And I think that's great, because it will showcase other women. It will get them on TV. You can build segments around them. Like, if they were to make a video vignette of these three going out together, like they're in the mall shopping, I would be interested in them, because they are such a star act that I just want to see whatever they do as a trio. I don't really care what it is. They could be wrestling, they could be backstage. I'm just drawn to them on TV because they have such a powerful presence. And I mean, again, they just come across like complete stars, like the way they dress, the way they look, the way they carry themselves. Like, they carry themselves like we're superstars. And so, yeah, I want to see more of the big three. I want to see the Freebird idea enacted with them. I want them to be able to switch the teams up whatever they want, or to switch the components of the team. And that's what I want. I want them to have the belts. Naomi's part of the team. They're all the champs. And I want them to have a very nice long reign. And when they lose to this women's trio that is like presented on the level of them, so it works. And to me, here's my idea: the three that should beat them. I'm thinking a little outside the box here. Julia, Stephanie Vacour, Delta. Those are the three hot NXT women that HBK Triple H signed. The three hottest women free agents out there. Those should be the trio that beats these three for the tag belts. That's how I would book it. Because what better way to put those three on the map?
Yeah, no, that could absolutely work. I'm trying to fantasy book how we get there. I think we were talking before the pod, and you mentioned how on the men's side they kind of cleared the path for us to have this Freebird reign. Excuse me, with Solo just basically saying to Jacob, "You're my enforcer. I don't need you worrying about being in tag matches," and just gives the belt, right? So how about Bianca and Jade win at Bash at Berlin, and then Alba and Isla get a rematch a week or two later. You announce it on SmackDown, championship match, going to main event, da da da. So they get to the arena, and Isla take out or Bianca backstage, like a knee or something like that, like I can't wrestle tonight type of injury. And then all you got to do is have whichever one didn't get hurt and Naomi go to Nick Aldis and say, hey, we're going to freebird this championship anyway. Naomi's going to step in. Boom, you have it. And it could be any of the two of them at any time. And you just run with that. You could run with that for a year and make that combination work if you wanted to. Now, I don't think that they're going to want Bianca in this for a year. I don't know if they plan on breaking up Bianca and Jade and have them be adversaries at some point. I actually don't get that vibe at all. I think they could just move on to different things. But yeah, I haven't been all in on this before because we got into this dearth of ring segments where it was the matches were too short, not coherent as far as playing to team strengths and stuff like that. But I thought they did a lot of good work. By they, I mean the producers. All the women involved are phenomenal. Like we always say, they just need an opportunity. But I thought that was a fantastic match, and that's how you make those belts matter. You have to have good matches too. The stories need to be good, but the matches need to be filled with. They have to have time, and they have to fight in a way where you feel like those straps are something coveted. How about the
Raw tag match?
Yeah.
So let me give you my review on the Raw match. So it was a three-way tag match for the titles. It was Isla Alba defending their titles against the Sky Pirates, which is Kairi Sane and Io Sky, and it was also Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark as what is their trio called?
Pure
Shayna, Sonya, Pure Collective.
Pure something collective, right?
Okay.
Proof it's a bad name. I've seen every segment they've been in, and I can't remember it.
The name, I think it's something collective, but it was a three-way tag match. I thought it was excellent. I thought that all of the women worked very hard. I thought they showcased all of them correctly. If you watch that match, it's clear cut that Io is like, no matter if she wins a match or loses, I assumed this until what happened later in the week, that they want to keep Io at a certain level, and she's like above the fray almost, because when she came in for her babyface offense, I could make a case she has the best babyface comeback of anybody in the women's division. She's phenomenal. Great match. The way that Alba and Isla retained the titles was excellent too, because they kind of used their ingenuity and their teamwork to defend the titles. and kind of outsmart the other two. And here's the thing that is puzzling to me. On Raw, they look very strong as champs. They come across as the best team in the division. It's going to be hard to beat them. They outsmart everybody. They win these matches. And then they go to SmackDown and they mostly lose. Now, part of that is because of who their opponents are. On SmackDown, they are going against kind of a super team in Bianca and Jade. So they're really not going to win that much. And they're not going to have Isla or Alba pin Bianca Belair singles match or Jade. That's not going to happen. So I get that. But like I said, I thought both on Raw and on SmackDown, the way they showcased non-singles women's feuds was what I want to see more of going forward. I thought both were very good for what they were trying to do, which is you obviously have the Monday match that's now setting up the Friday six-person that is now setting up the tag team title rematch at Bash at Berlin. And look, they said it on commentary. They said it both nights. Bianca and Jade have never been pinned for those titles. So either the story is they finally do get pinned and don't retain, or they're going to get the belts back. But I agree. They shouldn't be pinned. They should win the belts back, and they should not be pinned for a long time. But the Raw match, I loved. I thought it was a really good three-way tag match. And I'm very impressed with the Zoe Shayna team. I'm very impressed with, obviously, Sky Pirates are great. But, you know, Alba and Isla are a hell of a tag team, man.
They are.
They're a really good team. And they are really good. You know, they're really good in the ring. They have a really good presence to them. I noticed they got rid of the witch gimmick. Like, that's all gone, right? Like, they're not witches anymore. But I like them as a tag team. I think they're very good technicians. They're very good at the teamwork. Like, I think Beverly Brothers, Rockers, you know, they have that vibe where they're going to beat you with their tag team specialist moves or tag team excellence. So, yeah, I was a big fan of both segments. I thought the women were represented very well this week in non-singles titles segments on Raw and on SmackDown.
No, I agree. It's funny, Alba and Isla, if I had a time machine, so most every Banks and Bailey fan, I'm going to speak for both fan bases, they will tell you that the Golden Role Models are the greatest tag team of all time. And Boss and Hug, same women, different gimmicks, it was hit or miss, right? Obviously, in the ring, they were always great. Their Elimination Chamber match was fantastic. They did some really good stuff with, like, against Natty and Ronda. I really liked that match. But once they became champions, they needed a team like Alba and Isla to go up against to really be great babyface champions. So if I had a time machine and I could put Boston Hug era Sasha versus Bailey against heel Isla Alba and the tag team tactics that would have went into that feud would have been fantastic. That's what you were hoping for out of that first run. Because both Alba and Isla can go in the ring, and they're both very good. You brought up EO. So we gave Triple H some credit for, booking the women's tag division, but holy crap, did he piss me off this week. I hesitate sometimes to call into question any women getting opportunities, right? So you and I both thought WWE Speed Women's Championship was a good idea, even though there's a joke there about 3-minute matches. And it's like he ran face first into the joke. However, have a title that a woman can hold that will get her, if not TV time on Twitter. Okay, good. That's great. And we're thinking of, I don't think we talked about on here, but you're thinking of who could be involved, who'd be the best first champion, yada, yada, yada. So should I sit here and say Io Sky and Naomi and Kyrie are too big for WWE Speed, It's an opportunity. I'm gonna say it. They're too big for WWE Speed, and here's why it makes me mad. Io was just world champion going into WrestleMania 40 with one of the best feuds on the card, the best matches on the card. Not based opinions. She was in a highlighted match. She was factually the champion. And I think at worst, it was the second best match over the 2 nights. And the only match that might rank ahead of it is Cody and Roman, just for the spectacle that became. But if you're just talking a match, the Io Bayley match was, some people have it as the match of the year. She's above this. And treatment for women, you're not going to see Damian Priest ever fight for the WWE Speed title. It's not going to happen. Ricochet got the WWE Speed title and then bounced. So it's not this thing that people are dreaming of. Again, it's great work if you can get it for people who are up and comers, but you're not going to sit here and tell me it's bigger than like the Intercontinental Championship or the mid card titles. It's the gimmick title. So I think it's ridiculous that she's in the tournament. I think that they could fill that bracket with a lot of women who could use the showcase, and I just don't want to see Io be the Speed champion. But now, like, she can't lose either, so they've backed themselves into a corner. Am I crazy? Is it disrespectful?
No, I think the opportunity for WWE Speed women was exactly what I was hoping for, which was the women who aren't in current television storylines, the multiple talented women that are backstage that are not doing anything are going to be showcased on Speed. Zelina Vega, Lyra Valkyrie, those women who are super talented, but as the story arcs go, they're not in the Blair Davenport. They're not in Nia. They're not in Nia Tiffany's story. They're not in the tag division. They're not in Liv. Because the thing is, on Raw, you have a women's storyline with Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley that involves other people. And it's like a faction feud. But the title is kind of not even right now the centerpiece, right? It's a revenge thing. So you don't have Liv Morgan defending against Lyra or Zelina as a feud. So this is a way to showcase them separately. Look, I go back and forth on who the women's wrestler of the year is, because I think this year has been very good. Roxanne has been phenomenal. Mercedes has been phenomenal. Bayley was phenomenal. Io is phenomenal. But I could if you talk me into it, I can make a case that it is Io. Because remember, Io also has the match in Japan that is also one of my female women's matches of the year, where I think Io versus Bayley is my number one match of the year. This year in professional wrestling, that is my favorite match. I like it more than Mercedes and Willow. I like it more than Mercedes and Stephanie. I like it more than Io's match in Japan. So to me, Roxanne, and Thea is very good as well. But I have Io and Bayley as my match of the year, period. I'm not talking about gender. I'm talking about just the match of the year. My number one match is that match, period. I thought it was the perfect professional wrestling match. This babyface built up to this moment. She's avenging the people who turned on her. They told a beautiful story in the ring. It could have main evented and nobody would have argued. I think Rhea Becky is up there too. So yes, I'm with you. I think Io is too big for WWE Speed, which is only available on X. Io got one of the most monster babyface reactions as a heel in Puerto Rico. When she won Money in the Bank, she got one of the loudest pops of that whole show. On a show, by the way, that Jey Uso pinned Roman Reigns.
Right.
And her pop was right below Jey Uso pinning Roman Reigns, which at that time was like, oh my goodness, somebody pinned Roman Reigns. Number 3, when she cashed in on Bianca, Detroit went bonkers for her. They went
Yep.
nuts. Io is a star. She should not be on Speed. Speed should be used to showcase women who are not on TV every week. Io is on TV every single week. So in that case, I agree with you. I also want to see Io back in, if she's not going to be in the tag title picture, I want to see her in the singles title picture. And honestly, Io's a baby face. And to me, I know they're going to not break Liv and Rhea apart for a while. But if you're not going to do that, when SmackDown has its draft, put Io back on SmackDown and have her get into the Nia feud. And hey, if ever there's a person who could cash in on Nia when Tiffany does, it should be after a match with Io. And yeah, I'm just such a big Io fan that when I saw it, I think you retweeted that she was in Speed. I couldn't believe it. I had to go look for myself. I'm like, there's no way Io Sky is on Speed. There's no way. And she was. And I was disappointed because I don't think she
Yep.
belongs on Speed. I think Io belongs in top tier feuds. And it could be a singles feud that has no title, which, by the way, if we're going to critique both women's promotions or both how women are promoted in AEW and WWE, I'd like to see more women's feuds that don't involve titles. Period.
Yeah.
I would like to see a CM Punk Drew McIntyre feud for women. There's no
AEW's
titles.
got
Roman Reigns and Solo has no titles.
Yeah, AEW has 2 right now, right? You got Deonna and Thunder Rosa. I think it's at the end of it, but that's gone on for a while. Now you have to watch some of the non-Dynamite shows on that one. And Chris Willow is not really for a title, even though now Willow ended up picking up a title. But the seeds were planted for that to be a non-title feud for a long time. Willow just happened to get the CMLL belt because, someone who's, by the way, not wrestling decided that they had to drop it because WWE made them. That one's fascinating to me. I really thought Stephanie was getting the fast track and we'd be seeing her on our TVs real quick. But they had her burn those bridges with CMLL just to go to 2 house shows and then not be on TV. Here we are 3 months later. I don't know.
Well, she can't work she can't work though. She can't work in America. She doesn't have a visa. That's why.
Oh, okay. Did they not know that?
She doesn't have a visa. Well, again, that's the peculiar part, because if you knew you didn't have her visa, then you would make the argument she's better served to have the matches to drop the title so she could stay, in people's consciousness, right? Like how Julia is losing in Marigold, but then coming.
Julia's had 100 farewell matches.
That's the other thing. I was wondering about that. I'm like, wait, does she have her visa, or are they just delaying it and having her do all these farewell tours? But yeah, like if Stephanie's visa issues were already known, then you should have just said to her, hey, let them tell them this is going on, get more matches under your belt with them, and you drop the title. But I don't know what the situation is. I can tell you this though, when she does come to NXT, they are going to attach the rocket to her, to both of them, like that.
100%. Maybe I'm not familiar with how visas work, but she had already been announced for that match in the Bay Area where she was supposed to drop the title, where Willow won it. That was in the States. Mm-hmm. And she was supposed to be in that Rev Pro match that Mina just won the British Championship on. Mm-hmm. So do her visas get canceled because they're with different company and she's got to refile through a WWE as her employer? I guess I'd presume that's what it is.
Yes. Yeah. Because her visa was set up, whether it was through AEW or whoever, and then now that she's a WWE employee, or what is the company called?
TKO.
TKO. She probably has to refile her paperwork, but it also could be that she's applying for residency in America, right? Because remember, you can get temporary work visas as somebody who used to
That's got to
work
be what it is.
the concert promoting circuit way back in my days 20 years ago. When we would book artists to come and perform in Canada, music artists, you have to get them a work visa for that day. So, I'm not going to say the name of the artist, but there was a specific artist that we were supposed to have as a guest. I'll tell the story, quick story. So we promoted a Mos Def concert, and he came and he did the show. We were trying to, as a surprise for the fans in attendance, Q-Tip from A Tribe Called Quest, he was going to be the surprise. The problem is, him being a surprise, we didn't get a chance to file his visa paperwork because we're saying, well, he's not really getting paid. He's just here as part of the entourage. They looked at it as, wait a minute, he's going to perform. You're telling me he's getting no money for this? Where's his visa? He couldn't actually cross the border to work for that reason. So you can file 1-day visas because they're only in town for that day. They perform and they leave. So I'm gonna assume your Stephanie's visa was for one-offs, whereas now she's getting a permanent visa with residency attached to it. So hopefully that gets cleared up. TKO has a lot of money. They have a lot of connections. I'm sure they'll figure it out. But yeah, to your point, she could have at least just dropped the titles, because what the hell, it's wrestling,
yeah,
why not?
Yeah.
But when she didn't lose to Tessa, that's when I thought maybe she's not going to WWE. But she actually ended up going the next week. So I was like, okay.
The next day. It was the next day.
Which
it was
is crazy. Yeah, next day, which is crazy.
Put Tessa over. Talk about Nia and Michin, but real quick, the last point I want to make on WWE Speed, just so it's crystal clear for anyone who's still listening. Yes, it is a opportunity, but I put myself in Triple H's shoes. He would never do that to a recent former men's champion. As a former men's champion himself, he would not look at a WWE Speed men's bracket that's not going to be on TV and for the marketing of it, put one of his recent former men's champions on it. He wouldn't do it to him. It would be a disrespect. So
I don't see Drew McIntyre on Speed.
So I'm calling it out again for, Io needs to be respected higher as a recent former women's champion and one of the current best women's wrestlers in the world in her freaking prime. Nia and Michin. I'm a fan. Michin, Mia Yim, Mia Yim, sorry. She posted that vignette that she had on SmackDown was the first time she got to show herself the way she would show herself on the show. So I thought that was really, really cool. I wish the match was on Bash at Berlin. I kind of asked the question at the beginning because it says Bash at Berlin on the graphic, right? So you'd almost think that it was, but then it's SmackDown in the bottom corner there. But hopefully main event SmackDown. It's a great argument for a women's mid-card title, and I'll tell you why. Because Michin has crushed it to the best of her ability in this program. She got very over in matches with Bayley and herself and Nia. The crowd response to her singles match we talked about weeks ago was huge. I just think that she's, found her niche with the crowd right now. But she can't win because that Tiffany Nia story, Triple H is actually booking with long-term coherent storylines. So he can't you're not going to flip the title off of Nia. So it would be a great opportunity for her to valiantly lose. And then there's this women's mid-card title that she would be, the number one contender for. Because I think that hopefully she's bought herself more opportunities with how well she's performed in this role.
I think Meechin has knocked it out of the park as well. She's super talented. She always has been. We're seeing a different side of her in this current iteration of her in WWE. She's a believable singles threat. She's a believable threat to win the title. She's not going to win the title, but she's believable. They
Yep.
make her look great. She, destroyed the crown, and the way they're incorporating Pretty Deadly with Nia and Tiffany is gold. I think it's the perfect, kind of male duo to help further the storyline. They're planting lots of seeds. You have Chelsea and Piper, talking about, she's going to stab her in the back. Can't wait till she does it. And Nia's like listening to it and then, mad at them. There is a way you can book this match where Meechin still remains very strong, which is they both knock each other out. It's a count of 10, so nobody wins. And that is where Tiffany's conundrum starts. Hey, she's out. Do I cash? Win the title?
Do I help her up?
Do I not cash? Do I help her up? And I think Tiffany has to not. When Tiffany cashes, we should not expect it. So something like that is an expected place where the crowd's like, cash, 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 and she doesn't do it. But look, the Tiffany story is going to WrestleMania, right? Like people are gonna laugh at me when I say this. I know Charlotte is coming back somewhere in this story because she's the queen. Nia's the queen. That to me, if ever Tiffany is going to cash, you go Charlotte, Nia at WrestleMania, and Tiffany cashes then. But to me, a Tiffany Charlotte match, I feel like is WrestleMania also. Like more than Nia Charlotte, doesn't Tiffany and Charlotte feel like mother daughter? Like that doesn't that feel like, oh, like if ever you're fantasy booking this, when Charlotte looks at Tiffany, she's basically looking at the younger version of her.
Yeah, that's not why. That's true. It's not why I was laughing. The producer on that show, real drunk to sell Charlotte and Nia at Mania after what they did in the ring on that Monday Night Raw, where they had the messiest match of all time. Literally the messiest women's match of all time. Like, just the comedy it would be to trust them in that spot. And I'm not saying you couldn't, but I just think back to that was one of the funniest nights on Twitter ever. Just people literally
I remember that
match to try to figure out who shot on who first, who got rough first, who got pissed first. It was just like we're examining that like a Zapruder film, just like where did it start? Were they mad when they got into the ring? It was hilarious. Hey, you just gave me an idea. Maybe Charlotte comes out, but because they can't have her in the title picture right away, or at least I wouldn't. You could have that could be what Meechin earns. And when I say that, I mean literally Mia Yim backstage being happy with her. They don't have a mid-card title. It's pretty awesome to get a Charlotte Flair feud, right? And again, it would be a non-title feud, which is what we always advocate for. But I just hope that they do a good job kind of keeping her in the area, even though the story at some point will move on to Tiffany. I do love the idea of Tiffany down obvious cash points so that when it happens, it's like this thing that's been built up. I think that's fantastic. And there's nothing better than having Nia down for a 10 count and her not doing it. It's like, I've proven myself to you. It would be a great story beat.
Yep.
Kind of along the lines
I know
of
we're
Sasha Bailey.
Coming to the end here. No. I wanted to give you an opportunity because when you record a live podcast, things happen. So what I want to do is I need to go off camera or something because I'm in a hotel room and I just gotta somebody's knocking. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go off camera. I'm gonna mute my microphone, but I want you to give your take about the new Four Horsewomen that you were so passionate about and you want to talk about. So how about that?
I will do. Yep, I can do that. All right. So there was a graphic, new Four Horsewomen. I think they had, Lyra, Cora, Roxanne, and Tiffany. And it was them under the original Four Horsewomen. And it occurs to me that I don't ever see anyone fantasy booking who the new Four Horsemen are and who the new Shield are. And we only do this with the new Four Horsewomen as though we're trying to A, replace the originals, B, maybe shove them off into a new era or whatever. I don't know what's behind it, but here's what I feel passionately about. They were never a stable on camera, and they will never and don't ever need to be replaced. The entire point of the Four Horsewomen was four women together backstage were determined to create moments and matches on camera that would provide not only bigger and more opportunities for themselves, but bigger and more opportunities for women's wrestling. Now, that's not like we've gotten to a finish line and it's all fixed, but that original mission is absolutely accomplished. Women have main evented 2 WrestleMania, several pay-per-views. On top of that, different women have main evented different pay-per-views. The Four Horsewomen, Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair, Bayley, Becky Lynch, that's a once in a lifetime deal. If you want to fantasy book something around horsewomen, let's fantasy book getting them on screen together one more time and in a match together one more time down the road when it makes sense for everyone's career. I don't want to make it only about the Four Horsewomen. On that graphic were Tiffany, Lyra, Cora, Roxanne. I've seen it with Bianca, Rhea, Liv included. You've seen all the iterations of it. Let them be their own legends. Let them be their own stable group, singles, whatever it is that they're going to become. You got the makings of legendary careers, Hall of Fame careers for all those women. It could be possible. And they don't need to be a next anything. They're going to be the first version of themselves. Roxanne is the first Roxanne. Cora is the first Cora. If they're a tag team together, they'll be the first of that. They don't need to fill the Four Horsewomen's shoes. They're their own entity and their own thing. And again, I'll go back to it. I never see, since WCW died, I've never seen new Four Horsemen. And there doesn't need to be a new Four Horsemen. There doesn't need to be a new Shield. And there doesn't need to be a new Four Horsewomen. And it's unfair pressure to put on those ladies as well. Let them carve their own great path. And that's how I feel about that. I feel passionately that was a movement, and the original mission of that movement has been accomplished, and now that mission needs to go further, but it's not under that moniker. That is those four women, and it will always be those four women.
So I am as passionate as you are about this topic for the same similar reasons, but I'm going to go a little deeper. So number one, if you're going to do that graphic, at least pick the right, like, it's too lazy. Oh, well, Lyra has an affiliation to Becky, and Roxanne looks up to Bayley, and Cora looks up to Sasha, and Tiffany is Charlotte's daughter. So let's just take those four and throw them on a graphic. Okay, at least pick the right four women if you're going to do it that way. If you do the graphic, Rhea Ripley has to be on the graphic. Bianca Belair has to be on the graphic because you're looking at the next evolution of those four, right? Like you would have to look at Stephanie, you could look at Julia, you could go in multiple different ways, but just picking the women who idolize them and saying they're the next four, that to me is lazy. Number two, you said it right. When the Four Horsemen were dominant in NWA, nobody was like looking at who the next Four Horsemen are in NWA. It was they were set up to get baby faces over in feuds. The Four Horsewomen are a backstage faction. They are not an in front of the camera faction. So it's like what they did is monumental to elevate women's wrestling. No women after them, in my humble opinion, have done or need to do what those four women did to elevate women's wrestling because they already did it, right? So, like, Rhea Ripley might end up being a bigger star than all four of them. Bianca Belair might end up being a bigger star than all four of them. This is possible. But they didn't need to carve the path. It's already been carved for them. Yep. Right? If you go back and look at NXT, if you go back and look at NXT specifically, the black and gold NXT with these four, how many women pay-per-viewed a WWE pay-per-view before the Four Horsewomen existed? 0. It never happened. Everybody points to Trish and Lita. They did one Monday Night Raw main event. And yes, on a card with Steve Austin and The Rock, that's a big deal. I'm not going to sit here and say it isn't. But Sasha Banks, Charlotte, Bayley, Becky have main evented multiple pay-per-views.
Yep.
They were the first. They paved the way. And this is where I'm going to give Britt Baker the credit. I know, hell is going to freeze over. Britt has been the only one who's gotten this thing right. She has said, you all walked so we could run. That's actually why none of these other women who come after the Four Horsewomen are going to have the impact because the work has already been laid for them. Like, what else could another woman do that the Four Horsewomen haven't done that will elevate the genre here? In the Four Horsewomen, you have 3 of the 4 women. There have been 5 women in the history of WWE that have main evented WrestleMania. 3 of them are already in it. You have 2 women who are the first ever to main event a WWE NXT pay-per-view, Sasha Bayley, and then who main evented a main roster pay-per-view. In those 4 women, you have probably either 1, 2, or 3 in Charlotte, in Becky, and in Sasha, the women and Bayley who have main evented the most TV shows, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, etc. So, like, there is nothing for a next group of 4 horsewomen to even accomplish to take the genre here. It's already been done. Everybody's like, well, highest paid. Well, Becky had that. Mercedes has that. Oh, it's merchandise. Well, Becky did that already. Becky was the top merch seller for a while, right? Okay, now it could be Rhea, but Becky already cracked that. Sasha was up there in 2016. So Bayley was there in NXT. She was the top merch seller. So these 4 women are so phenomenal. They've done everything. And so these other women who come after them don't have to do it.
Yeah,
and so you cannot ever give anybody the credit, or you to your point, you can't give anybody the label the next. You have to give them the label. They're their own thing. They're doing their own thing, and that's cool. But let the 4 horsewomen be themselves.
Yeah, because they would be breaking ground that's new, not next, but new. Two things real quick.
Yeah.
I, I think those are those are public thing changes that they impacted that will forever go down in history. I also think where you can never replace them is what about the backstage stuff that they changed? Remember, Sasha and Bailey, Brooklyn, which the anniversary was the other day, the greatest women's match of all time and the most influential match, men or women, of the last 15 years, had to hide through plans match from the NXT officials, their locker room, because as women, they would have been told to dial it back. We would not have gotten the greatest women's match of all time if they had been honest in their walkthrough of what they planned on doing, because they would have been dialed back. This was in 2000 freaking 15, guys, less than 10 years ago. So the impact that they had to make was huge. Women couldn't even go out there and try to have the best match less than 10 years ago. Don't even think about having the best match until they had the courage to go do it, execute it, and it happened. And now, that broke a barrier that can't be unbroke, because we will complain about match times forever when they're too short, and that's still an issue. But when women are given a spotlight match, they're allowed to go out there and do whatever match that could be the best match on the card. Bailey and Io just did it. I think to Charlotte and Rhea at WrestleMania, they were having a bad match. And mid-match, they decided, hey, why don't we just beat the tar out of each other and this will at least get over. Those are things that just wouldn't have happened 10 years ago, and I give credit to Charlotte and Rhea for that. But I think that the behind the scenes stuff is just as important. And I'll kick it back to you real quick, but one thing I do want to say, the credit you gave Britt, actually Bianca did as well. And it's one of my favorite lines she's ever had. I could hear the line. Sasha says that she paved the road, and Bianca says, I am walking the road that you paved, but I'm in my own lane. I thought that was such a great comeback.
Yeah.
And it gives Sasha the props, but also says, hey, I'm this new thing that's never been seen. But they use that in the WrestleMania package, and that was one of the best parts of that feud.
So I'm going to incorporate one of your favorite all-time athletes into what I'm about to, kind of talk about the same topic. So we're always quick to retire greatness. So, I'm not going to get into a basketball who's the best player ever argument on this podcast, but, LeBron James has had one of the most phenomenal American sports careers of all time, where he has been good every year for 20 years, right? Like, he's never had a decline. He's never had that yet. But every year, oh, he's getting old. This is the year. It's like we want him to fall off a cliff for whatever reason. And it's like, no, like, this dude is great every year. Let's appreciate greatness while he's here. Okay. So in that graphic of the four horsewomen and the new four horsewomen, Lyra Valkyrie and Tiffany's best matches are with Becky Lynch. Okay. I don't have a signature Cora match that I can point to. And I know Cora's super talented, but I think she, because of injuries and stuff, she hasn't really come into her own in the ring like she will in the future. Roxanne is phenomenal. I have nothing. She's amazing. Like, she can have a match with a broom and I'll watch it. She's that good. But two of the four women's best pieces of matches or work have been with one of the four horsewomen that we're trying to ride off into the sunset. Let's appreciate Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, Bailey, and Charlotte while they're still here, active competitors because they are still on anybody's list 4 of the top 8 to 10 women in the world in the ring. We did a whole segment on Becky Lynch's matches that I picked. It's all post-pregnancy stuff. Except, it's all post-pregnancy stuff. The Trish stuff, Lyra stuff, Tiffany stuff, Rhea stuff. It's all after giving birth, she came back and has had some of the greatest matches of her career. Charlotte's had some killer matches with Rhea. Bayley just tore the house down with Io. Mercedes has been tearing the house down in multiple countries. These 4 women aren't going anywhere. So before we are anointing new individuals to take their spot, they're not going anywhere. They're 27-7-7 every night, like LeBron is. So before we want to do that, why not just appreciate them while they're here? Like we should appreciate LeBron, like we should appreciate Tom Brady before he retired. A sport near and dear to my heart. If you know me, you know how much a big tennis fan I am. Appreciate Novak Djokovic. Appreciate Rafael Nadal, because you're not going to see this again. And I guarantee you will never see 4 women who came into the business at the exact same time in terms of how they got to WWE change the industry the way those 4 women have. So appreciate them while they're here. Don't write them off for the new flavor of the month. Trust me, these 4 women still have a lot to offer and a lot to give the business, and they're going to, because they're still the best. Like, I don't see them as falling off. Like, tell me in the 4 horsewomen who's falling off. They're having phenomenal matches. So to me, that's it. Yeah.
Because of the impact they made, there's room for them to stick around, plus whoever else ascends. So that's the greatness of it is they're not going anywhere, and they're not also taking anyone's spot either, because there's more spots than ever before. That's literally the mission accomplished, right?
Because what they created.
Mercedes said it herself a couple weeks ago on a live, I think. She said, everyone wants these men's wrestlers sticking around in their 40s and 50s. She's like, why can't I wrestle till I'm 50? And I said, damn straight to that. And they can all, again, this idea, I think it's dated that there aren't enough spots, and there's always going to be spots for good performers, and there's more spots than ever now. We still advocate for more storylines, non-title storylines, and all that. But you know how you're going to get there?
Mm-hmm.
You know how you're going to get there? Having people like them stick around for non-title storylines and creating that as a thing, right? Charlotte can come back and do a year of non-title storylines that will be on TV every week. She could.
There is one. You're right. To me, the best non-title women's story the WWE has ever done, Nikki Bella, Carmella. When they had the SmackDown, when Nikki Bella was still an active performer, you remember her and Carmella had that feud?
Yep.
Without the title. So, in my opinion, I always felt like, as big a star as any of the 4 horsewomen are, and they're huge, the one woman who I could make the case is a little bigger than all of them, individually at least, is Nikki Bella. And I always felt like Nikki Bella, the way she was booked before she left, is how I want to see the 4 horsewomen booked as they wind their careers down, which is they're not in the title feuds, but they're actively putting over younger talent because of their star power. And I thought that they captured that with Nikki Bella very well, because she was always presented as a bigger star. Like, even with, when Evolution ticket sales were kind of dwindling, were not as hot as they wanted, they went to Nikki Bella and they said, okay, you and Rousey for the title could could draw interest, and it did. Now, obviously, Charlotte and Becky had the match of that night, but like they needed Nikki Bella's star power with Rousey to get people interested. At least that's what the report is. That's what I want to see. That's the next step for the women's division in WWE specifically, which is non-title blood feuds like they do at CM Punk's bracelet, like they're doing with the wreath for this, for the Bloodline story. Those are the two of the three hottest stories that the company has. They don't involve a title. And you can make the case Liv and Rhea don't involve a title, it involves Dom, right? It's like, to me, that's the next step. Two women who don't like each other, they don't care about a title. And I always thought there was one specific feud that they could have pulled that off in: Sasha Banks, Bayley, without a title. You're telling me if those two built up to a WrestleMania match without a title, people wouldn't be interested? Of course they would.
Well, they had Sasha do the mini turn at Elimination Chamber. I mean, that would have been one of the best matches at WrestleMania 34, but instead we got that Battle Royal. We got Nia Alexa. So that's a whole other 2 hours of where booking went wrong in the past. But I think this has been some good discussion this week. T-minus a little less than 3 hours until the main show of All In starts. You're gonna miss it, right? You're gonna be on a plane.
I am. I'm gonna be on a plane. So I'm gonna be missing both the next two major wrestling pay-per-views because I'll be on a plane both times. So this week I'm on a plane going back home. Next week, after, by the way, me and our third member of this trio, Mike, will be at Capital Collision in Washington to see, hopefully, the double champion Mercedes Moné defend her New Japan Strong title against Momo in Washington. The next morning, I get on a plane during Bash at Berlin and come back home, to make it for Labor Day weekend. But yeah, so I will miss both events live as they happen. So when I land, both, I could get results I love, or I get results I don't like on both consecutive weeks. But yes, you are correct. I will be missing it. I'm excited to see when I turn on my phone either anger that Britt is the new champion, or happiness that Tony has finally cured all of us Sasha Banks / Mercedes Moné fans of PTSD, which is post-traumatic Sasha syndrome, as I've always said it, because with WWE, man, her booking, we were on pins and needles, and maybe they did a good job there. They kept us interested because we never knew. But I feel pretty confident that she'll retain her title today because I just don't see a path the other way. There's no story the other way. That's why I see this as the simple story.
You're undercutting your investment if you have her lose now. All right. Well, hey, the next time we get together, we will have had an all-in show. You attending what could be the women's match of the year at Capital Collision, because if they're going to get 25, 30 minutes, who the heck knows what they could pull off. And then Bash at Berlin. So we'll have a lot to talk about. But good. Appreciate everyone listening in, and hope everyone enjoys a great week of wrestling that we have coming up. And we'll talk to you guys next time.
All right. Talk to you next time.